Welcome everyone. We're here today to remember, to honour and to celebrate the life of Nicholas George Arthur Jones, better known to you all as Nick, but to some of you as Beef and to some of you as Beef Man. And I thank you all for being here. I'd also like to welcome those of you that are watching on, family and friends, wherever you are. Thank you for your love and your support. My name's Paul Young and I'm a celebrant. And for myself, and from all of us here at Hanson and Cole, our condolences to Nick's family and friends. You know, there are no words of comfort that can cushion the shock experience when one is faced with a loss of a loved one. And in Nick's passing, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason, any meaning or sense. Rather, we feel deep, deep hurt that such a thing can happen. But we can all be a support for each other throughout this grieving process. And I want to make it clear that we're here today to celebrate Nick's life rather than to mourn his death. When tomorrow starts without me, and I'm not there to see, the sun should rise and find your eyes all filled with tears of me. I wish so much you wouldn't cry the way you did today. While think of the many things we didn't get to say. I know how much you love me, as much as I love you. And each time you think of me, I know you'll miss me too. So when tomorrow starts without me, don't think we're far apart. For every time you think of me, I'll be right there in your hearts. Before we go any further, I know that some of you have travelled long distances. Victoria, up in Sydney, or wherever you've come from. Thank you for your love and your support for the family today. There's also been many messages that have been received from the States. We'd like to thank those people that have sent those as well. And so to tell us a little bit about her son Nick, I'd like to invite you, Alison, to please come forward.
Well, I'm going to try anyway. Nick passed away at home 2 weeks ago from a stroke. Nick was born in Frankston Hospital, Victoria, just after midday, the 2nd of May 1979. A baby brother to Ben. Whoever imagined that our little chubber would grow to 6'5", over 100 kilos with size 14 feet. He spent the first 2 years of his life in Mount Eliza, Victoria. As he grew, he was a happy little fellow who really didn't like crowds. He was very much against crowds as a little boy. His good friends were Bunny and Dog, which he took everywhere with him. I remember the performance when Bunny and Dog desperately needed a wash. When he saw them hanging on the line by their ears, he screamed the place down until they were returned to him, still damp. In 1980, as a family, we moved back to Wollongong. Nell and I, originally from Wollongong. The boys were born in Victoria. Nick attended St Michael's Preschool, Balgownie Public School, Smith Hills High School and Tiggs, where in his senior years he was a prefect and house captain. During his younger years, he enjoyed junior soccer, cricket, scouts, backyard basketball, swimming, surfing, roller coaster riding, anywhere he could, and anything to do with the bush and exploring nooks and crannies therein. A love that stayed with him throughout his life. It was during his primary school years that he began a lifelong obsession with collecting. His earliest collection came to our notice when an incredible stench came from his room. Not the usual boy smell, but something a lot more odorous. On further investigation, he had stored several dozen cicadas, all in various stages of decay, under his bed. He collected American bubblegum packets, candy boxes and wrappers, so long as they were American. As he grew older, his collecting passion turned to American baseball cards, a love he shared with his mate Sunil. As far as we can ascertain, he has approximately 200,000 cards, all in order, all catalogued, and he could rattle off the stats from any player you need to mention to him. Nick had a mischievous side. Ben, his brother, remembers him standing on top of a Waikiki car park, throwing hundreds of held banknotes, fake money, which closely resembled real US currency. He found it hilarious. The commotion it caused with people running all over the street and the roads trying to pick up the money that was fake. Nick loved sport of any kind, especially watching his beloved Canberra Raiders. And I know that's offensive to some of you who are not Canberra Raiders supporters, as well as watching many hours of American baseball. Nick loved to travel and was fortunate to enjoy many overseas trips with us and his big brother Ben. His travels included 12 trips to the USA, 7 of which were to his beloved Hawaii, and a trip to Bali, which was not so great for him, as he was sick with Bali belly for the first 5 days of our trip. In Australia, he travelled to Queensland, Western Australia. In New South Wales, he covered the south and north coast, Dubbo, Canberra, Wagga, and the Southern Highlands. His favourite towns were Yakandanda and Beechworth. In his single days, Nick also had some wild trips to the farm with his mates. Judging by the photos, there were fun times to be had there. He loved Google Maps, and over the last 2 years, he planned what we called our magical mystery tours for ourselves and his 2 precious girls, Lizzie and Daisy. We never knew where we were going. Nick directed, but it invariably involved an ice cream or a lolly shop for the girls. His working years were varied, and like many young people at uni and TAFE, Nick had a part-time job delivering pizzas for Pizza World Corrimal with his great mate Brasher. For a short time, he worked at Teletech in Hornsby with his mate Graham as a consultant. The travel for Wollongong to Hornsby daily proved to be an impossible ask. Nick secured a job as a transit officer for State Rail, but when a job as a communications officer with the New South Wales Police came up, he jumped at the chance, especially as it involved a move to Wagga, the country which he loved. Through his job, he met his wife Jess, went on some years later to marry Jess in Hawaii, and between them produced 2 beautiful girls, Lizzie and Daisy, his 3 beautiful girls, as he always called them. When the communications centre in Wagga was closed down, he was transferred back to Wollongong, living in his unit at Warrawong and later their house at Albion Park. In January 2022, Nick contracted a catastrophic illness, bacterial meningitis, which we were told he wouldn't survive. Nick suffered 3 strokes, a heart attack, and after almost 5 months in hospital, he was back with us. He never fully recovered, and his health to us was precarious. His illness left him with poor speech and left side, hand and body weakness, which was slowly improving. Over the last 3 months, he's been slowly moving back home with us so we could care for him a little bit more intensely because he needed it. On the morning of the 27th of January, we saw Nick at his home. He was very unwell. But in his typical style, he refused to let us take him to the hospital or even to a doctor. We agreed to return later that day, and after taking some of his things to our farm in Goulburn. We returned shortly after 5 o'clock to find him asleep in his favourite chair. We tried hard to bring him back, but he'd gone to a better place. Our grateful thanks to the OOO responder who helped us, Nell and I, through until the paramedics, two off-duty paramedics appeared who attended within minutes. Then our thanks to the on-duty paramedics who attended, the police officers, and all who were involved during that traumatic and frantic time for us. A valiant effort from all. And thanks to our boy Ben for all the help he's given us over the last couple of weeks. Nick to now will be remembered for the 3 C's. a collector, a comedian, and the comeback kid, because we had him back with us for 18 months after his serious illness in 2022. He was a planner, a navigator, and was planning his next trip in 2025 with his girls to Hawaii, the US, and including Lake Tahoe in California, which, as he said, he hadn't seen but really knew it was lovely from Google Maps. He loved LA, home of the Dodgers, and New York City, home of the Yankees. Thank you. Tom.
And so to share with us Jess's tribute, I'd like to invite you, Magella, to please come forward.
So, on behalf of Jess, I'm going to read her eulogy. She's afraid that she will cry too much to get through it, and when she cries a lot, she gets a snot bubble. So we don't want to see that. So I said, yes, I'll step in. So Jess's eulogy to her husband, Nick. Nick was my best friend. I know that sounds trite and questionable, given the drama of the last few years, but stay with me. I met Nick when I was 19. We were in Wagga doing a psych test as part of the application for work. My initial thought was, who's this idiot wearing a massive Jack Daniels jacket to something like this? He somehow passed the psych test, and the next time Jess saw him was at the Sydney Police Centre, and that's where they started training for radio. He was wearing the same jacket, grinning and humming for no reason, and as the day went on, she once again said to herself, who is this idiot wearing a Jack Daniels jacket? I watched Nick charm people with his humour and quick wit. He managed to fit in with anyone, anywhere, seemingly gliding through life. He fit in, but he stood out. His kindness and his happiness was very refreshing. Our friendship deepened and we found we made each other happy just by being ourselves. Watching Jeopardy together daily is one of Jess's happiest memories. We stayed this way for the majority of our relationship. He continued to beat Jess at Jeopardy. We somehow stumbled into an engagement and then a wedding, then wished and hoped for those two gorgeous girls. They are Jess's whole world, and she is forever thankful to Nick for giving them to her. Nick was affable, Nick was confident and comfortable within himself. He knew what he liked and he knew what he didn't like. He hated change. He loved routine and consistency. He just wanted peace. It's been 2 years since he first went into hospital. An horrific experience for anyone, but for someone like Nick, who was so private and solitary, it was excruciating. He beat the odds again and again, but even at home, he never really regained total independence. His health was still very poor, but he struggled through as much as he could, and he treasured the time spent with his girls. He loved his friends and family, and he adored our daughters. I'm glad they'll have these memories and the stories of their daddy from people who loved him. We grew apart because we didn't grow together. Nick will forever be that young idiot wearing a Jack Daniels jacket. But he was the smartest idiot I've ever known, and he was my best friend. And I hope he has peace now.
I want to take this opportunity to share with you some thoughts on two very important things that turn into one when we lose our loved ones. They being grief and love. And I want to start by saying we should never fear to grieve. Those tears that you shed, the feelings of loss that you have, well, they tell me and all of us what we already know. And that is how much Nick was loved and how much he's going to be missed. You see, those tears and those feelings, they're a privilege because we don't grieve for those not loved or respected. And you're all here today because you loved and respected Nick in your own special ways. And we cannot think of his death without resolving to live a fuller and a more meaningful life of our own. And you know, grief takes on many forms. We grieve for those that we've lost. We grieve for opportunities that we might miss throughout a person's life. And then sometimes we grieve for things we've said or things we regret we didn't get to say. So we should always remember to take those chances in life whilst we have them. And you know, we do those little things. We sit and talk, or we share, or we cry. But, gee, more importantly, we should all take that time to laugh and to love and to encourage and to celebrate with all those that we feel closest to. Because there is no time like the present. And we've all lost loved ones. And over the years, wonderful memories come back to us and those we've lost in the smallest and the simplest of ways. You know, to be flicking through a photo album. Might be the smell of an aftershave. It'll be watching Ricky's boys run around in Canberra in a couple of months' time down there with the Raiders. It's the next time that the 24, 25 baseball series cards come out, you want to get hold of those. You know, it's a get-together with your family, or it's a get-together with your friends. It's a really good practical joke. It's watching reruns of old TV shows or movies, but you know, more often than not, memories will come back to us in the words or the tune of a song. Because it doesn't matter how old we are, we can become teenagers again by listening to a piece of music. And on their own, all those things are small and insignificant. Put them together with memories of someone no longer with us. And it's the little things we hold on to the most, not the big things, it's the little things. Because those little things take on a huge importance once we've lost somebody. Because they become our link or our connection between those of us that are here and those that are past. So whenever the beef man comes into your mind, you recall those special personal qualities that made this man so truly unique to each and every one of you. And I reckon that he was probably a unique friend. Shared lots of laughs with you. So to share with us a story or two, I'm going to invite you, Brasher and Graham, to please come forward.
Thank you. I went to high school with Nick, and I was in most of his classes. Sometimes we'd have to do speeches or presentations at school, and I'd always dread having to do them. But not Nick. Nick would love when I'd have to do speeches or presentations, because it'd either go one of two ways. I'd either make a total mess of it, jumble my words, say the wrong thing, and that would make his day. That would be the funniest thing ever to him. And still to this day, he'd still remind me of mistakes and funny things that I got wrong in speeches. But on the other side, whenever I get it right and do a good speech, he made sure that I knew just how well I did and how proud he was. And they're the sort of two main sides that I knew of Nick. The joker, the one that found everything funny, but also the side that cared for his friends and wanted everyone to do well and succeed in whatever they did. At school, we bonded over humour, music, sport, and Nick's ability to know the most obscure facts and statistics about absolutely anything. And I always found that amazing. And in any little games we always had, he always strived to achieve the impossible. One of the things we'd do at school, you'd want to throw small rocks into a bin. But the bin had to be 60 metres away. So it's almost an impossible shot. Every once in a while, if you'd get one in, the joy was just amazing. It made it all worthwhile. Even at home in his backyard, with the basketball ring, it was always the impossible shots that he was interested in doing. Just to spend hours just trying to get shots in that shouldn't be made, just for when he could get one. He obviously loved his comedy too. loved having a laugh, convinced me in high school over and over again to watch Seinfeld. Every time I'd come around, he wanted to watch Seinfeld. Until eventually he drummed in the same appreciation that he had. And things that we just chat about regularly up until this day. Until the last couple of times where I saw him when now we're both parents, that shifted to what our favourite kids shows were and what our favourite episode of Bluey and Dougie is. But it was still all about what the funniest things were. Even when he was in hospital a couple of years ago and he wasn't well, I'd go and visit him and he'd spend the whole time trying to make me giggle and laugh. And seeing him still have his sense of humour then, that was really great to see, and another special quality that he always had. The past week, I've spent a lot of time thinking about the memories I have with Nick, and the hardest thing about doing that is every time I think of a nice memory, my first instinct is to send him a message and just share that memory with him. So many good memories, and I really appreciate the friendship that he's given me over the years. One thing was he was always looked happy to see me. Whenever I'd see him, he just seemed glad to see me. It always just made me happy to know him. And so I thank Nick for all the laughs, fun and happy times that we've experienced. It's a lonelier place without him. Miss him dearly, but yeah, we'll always have memories. Giddy up, big fella.
Beef. This is my 138th draft of this speech. Who'd get that? I'll keep it simple. What a bloody funny bastard. And an absolute legend. He was my favourite person. I've known him for a third of a century. I don't know much, but I know he wouldn't want us to be sad. He wouldn't even want to be here, to be honest. He constantly tried to make people laugh, and they don't make them any better than that. We are all better off for knowing him. I'll leave you with the words of one of his favourite characters from Seinfeld, the soup Nazi. Adios, muchacho!
Well, when I sat down the other day with Nick's family, one of the questions that I asked was, how many people do you think will be here today? They said, we're not really sure. He was a man that sort of kept to himself. Fairly private, fairly reserved. But I think over the last little while, his dad's found out that there was the other side of Nick. He thought his dad, he would tell his dad what he needed to be told, I'm guessing. And the rest of you saw the other side of Nick. The funny side, the bloke that made you laugh, the bloke that did pranks to make you all remember him in those special ways. And there have been hundreds and hundreds of messages sent to the family. So on behalf of the family, I'm going to share some of them with you now. We won't put a name to them, but if they're yours and you're here, or if you're watching on, you made the list. A part of me definitely died with him. Rest in peace, brother. You will be missed whenever I watch Seinfeld or Curb, whenever I watch or play cricket. Absolute legend. Nick was a very funny and kind classmate to have in high school. I can't count how many times I laughed at his jokes. Forever the joker. He was basically my own personal stand-up comedian at times. He was the only person at work I could discuss heavy metal with, and he loved doing the death metal growl at me and throwing the horns. I loved all his stories and the way that he would peruse Google Maps every shift, and his love of footy, the Canberra Raiders. As a Dragons fan, it was hard to level with him there. He was also the reason I have only partial memories of Greg's 40th, and if you were there, you would know. Also loved our endless talks and quotes with Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Rest in peace, Nick. Beef man, Nick and drumsticks. It hurts immensely. But I hope you're in a better place now. I'll spin some Cannibal Corpse in your honour, my friend. Absolutely devastated. But I'm so grateful I got to spend New Year's Eve with him a few weeks back. Just last week we were talking about him doing a road trip down here in Victoria. Can't believe he's missed the last season of Curb. Got lots of great memories of him. Our shared love of Bruce Springsteen, Carl Barron, amongst others. He was my go-to guy when my computer wouldn't do what it was told. Shared far too many laughs on night shifts on Google, watching live sites with weird critters. Oh gosh, Nick, I'm gutted. Rest in peace, Beef. I love how many different music memories people have. For me, I'll remember and associate metal and electronic music. Nick was so funny back in the old D-Team days with his jokes and reminiscing about all the great 80s, 90s TV shows and movies. Good memories. So many memories and fun times on shift, watching the Ibex video countless times, if only to make a shitty day better. Always referencing Simpsons quotes, filling in the footy stats with his red pen, Google mapping his way to anywhere you were going so that you knew your surroundings before you even got there. Never missing a thing and giggling at something funny that happened in the room, even if it wasn't meant to be. A kind soul who never quite fit in, but didn't want to either. Too smart for most, but never took anything too seriously. Rest in peace, Nicky J. Your quirks, humour and intelligence will live on through your beautiful girls. Nick was one of the funniest guys I knew. He will be missed. Such a nice man. Always with a smile on his face. He had the same dark and often really inappropriate sense of humour as me. Best mate in primary school. Introduced me to Mad magazines and Metallica. We played for Balgownie under-9s together. Well, we showed up anyway. Shared hot chips at the Balgownie fish shop after school. Many birthday parties at the Wollongong indoor skating rink. Helped me to prepare for the Smiths Hill High entry test. I was always warmly welcomed into his house by his wonderful family. Fond memories of a very intelligent and a very funny kid. The castle, the chase, pushbacks, Google Maps, Twitter, Snowman Cam, Storm Chasers, Family Guy, Jeopardy, Jimmy Carr, cricket, and so many inappropriate jokes. That was the coldest night at the footy ever, Paul Badman, but his beloved Raiders got it done. Never a bad time when Jonesy was around. Truly wonderful reading all these funny, beautiful stories about Nick. I wish I knew him better, as he sounds like my twin, and it's no wonder he and Jess fell in love. Two peas in a pod by the sounds of it, and they have no doubt passed on the genetically and probably trauma-based, highly inappropriate and dark sense of humour to their girls, which will be a blessing of inappropriate laughs to a whole new generation, and oddly assist in getting them through the hardest times in their life, with a beautiful, inappropriate and loving smile on their face, and the most genuine love and kindness anybody could ever want. Rest in peace, Nick. And Nick was a very funny and kind classmate to have in high school. But there's a couple more. Nick had many gifts. Some were innate. His humour and intelligence were incredible. And he passed it on to his beautiful girls. Some gifts were a hybrid of his mental wiring along with his intense hyperfocus. He had amassed tens of thousands of baseball cards which he read and catalogued daily. He could recite any statistic in relation to his cards. This was also the case with regard to cricket and rugby league. He had even corrected the presenters from his favourite NRL TV shows and radio programs. I think they were frustrated but impressed by Nicky J from Wollongong constantly contacting them to correct and expand on their stats. Nick, or Nick and Drumsticks, garnered a Twitter following with his humour of 13,500 followers. 13,500 people. He gathered from all around the world to follow Nick's sense of humour. He was ranked at number 2 on the Huffington Post, which is in Chicago, and it's a huge paper. Huge paper. He got ranked number 2 in the world on the Huffington Post for one of his tweets, and others also listed in BuzzFeed and Ranker. Twitter also led to a friendship, and how this man did this, I don't know. But Twitter also led to a friendship with the writer of one of Nick's favourite movies, Bill and Ted's Favourite Adventure. This writer also wrote Men in Black and Charlie's Angels, which Jess actually found more impressive than Bill and Ted's Adventure, but anyway. They got talking. And when Nick told Ed that he had never had Cheez-Its, Ed, the writer, sent Nick, the poster, boxes and boxes of these things. Nick was so happy, and they maintained contact, and Ed passed on his condolences for the loss today. But you know, in amongst all that humour and all that funny stuff, there was an incredible side. And it comes with this story. You think about this. Nick was sitting at home, at his computer. And he travelled the world with Google Earth. He had an incredible eye for detail and a keen sense of direction and brilliant pattern recognition. His fixation with geography saved the life of a woman halfway around the world. In 2019, he saw a goodbye tweet from a woman in England. He searched through photos that she had posted previously and managed to ascertain her exact house just by knowing a vague area, then being able to piece together from Google Earth and her photos where she was. He contacted the relevant authorities and they were able to go to her aid. She messaged him about a week later, incredulous, but thank you. You know, this man touched all of your lives in some way, shape or form. And I know the family is so very thankful for you being here today. And you all have your own memories of Nick. Beef man, Nick and Drumsticks, however you referred to him. But you know, those memories, they're yours and nobody can ever take those away from you. So I'm going to ask you now to take this opportunity to reflect upon those times that you shared with Nick. I'd now like to show you a photo presentation. Well, that photo's with him in the coal mine, the Black Rock.
What a wonderful world.
the event of death, it has a way of uniting us that perhaps no other human experience does. And it reminds us of the fragile nature of our relationships. It reminds us of the special and unique way in which we relate to those people who cross our pathways in life. And I believe that reflecting on our past, our history, brings knowledge, comfort, and a sense of identity. You know, this celebration of Nick's life, it's not meant as a goodbye. For you, it should be a thank you. A thank you to Nick for all those memories. A thank you for his hard work, for his love, for his laughter, for his friendship. But most importantly, a thank you to Nick. Thank you to Beef, the Beef Man, Nicky J, Nick and Drumsticks, however you called him. So thank you to Nick just for being himself. You know, he leaves this world a far richer place than he found it. And I know how much the family have appreciated all the love and all the support that you've given them over the last little while. And, you know, your being here means the world. But please make sure over the coming days and weeks and months and even years that you're not a stranger to them. You pick up that phone, you give them a call, you send them a text. And if you know them well enough, you go and knock on their door. But whatever you do, don't let them bear their grief on their own. Maybe not knock on their door. Ring them first. But you know, they say so long as somebody's spoken about, they're never truly gone. There's a million stories out there to be told about Nick. And of those million stories, 999,990 of them his dad doesn't know about. So make sure that you do share those stories over the time. I'm going to send you all next door very shortly to be together and to share those memories and those stories. You know, thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting the family. You want to say a few words? Come on, Jess.
No, you need a disclaimer that he does believe in rugby league, just for this song. Very much believes in rugby league.
So no matter what happens in this song, the disclaimer Jess has told me is he does believe in rugby league. It's going to make sense when you hear the words. Is that right, Jess? Okay, and if it doesn't, blame Jess. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that can, will you please stand? I won't close the curtains, and if anyone would like to come up after the family to say goodbyes, you're certainly invited to do so. We're going to open up those side doors for you to leave and to go through to. Yeah, crank it up.
I will not go quietly. I will not accept your rules. Gonna live with myself, for I live with any of you. When I was the best, you all knew it. On the days I cared at all. You can all say I blew it. You'll be talking about me for years. I will not go quietly. I will not behave myself. It's not for the sake of fighting, but not for you or anyone else. When I was the best, you all knew it. On the days I cared at all. You can all say I blew it. You'll be talking about me for years. I was my own man. Can y'all say that? Yeah, I was my own man. Can y'all say that? Yeah, I was my own man. Yeah, I was the shit. Don't believe in rugby league. say that? Yeah, I was my own man. Can y'all say that? Yeah, I was my own man. Yeah, I was the shit. Behave myself. I will not go quietly.